On January 20, earlier this year, an international symposium took place in Berlin to revisit what had happened at the Wannsee Conference 80 years earlier. The Wannsee Conference, of course, was that pivotal moment in world history when senior Nazi officials and government leaders came together to decide and plan the elimination of all the Jews in Europe. The central question 80 years later was this: how can we prevent this from happening again? One of the delegates who came to Berlin was Gady Gronich, representing the Jewish community, and he made an interesting comment. He said, why be so obsessed on what happened in the past? Shouldn't we focus more on the future? This is the topic of today's program, and we are joined by Gady Gronich from the Conference of European Rabbis Foundation and the Vice President of the European Parliament, Nicola. My name is Tomas Sandell, and this is the European Report. But before we dive into today's topic, we want to pause and reflect on perhaps an even more pressing issue, and that is on Ukraine. Is there a future for Ukraine? Earlier today, the president of Ukraine said that perhaps within the next 24 hours, the fate of Ukraine will be decided. Vice President Baer, is there a future for Ukraine? What has the European Union done to help, and what can we do at this very critical situation?
I really, really hope from the bottom of my heart that there is a future for a sovereign Ukraine in freedom and sovereignty. The Western Alliance, and I call it an alliance of international law, because it can be joined by every country around the globe, so especially by China and others, are really working hard on it. So we have a massive support, even if I think sometimes it has too long time to take all the decisions I wanted to see, but I think for the moment now we really managed to have a package of massive support in money, also in supporting by material they need to defend, and especially also by a huge package of sanctions which are concerning the financial and also the economical side, so that we really isolate Putin's regime. And that is maybe important, that it's concerning the Putin regime and not all the Russian society, as we see also demonstrations in the streets, and which is very difficult for the people as they are arrested in the streets for going against this invasion, this attack and war of Putin against a sovereign country. But I think we really also in the topic of today, anti-Semitism and the fight against anti-Semitism, as we see that Putin is arguing Zelensky as a Nazi, so somebody who is with a Jewish background, working on the top of a sovereign state by free and democratic elections, voted for, now to be called a Nazi, sees that anti-Semitism takes really incredible forms nowadays.
That's a very interesting point to be made. And Gady Gronich, you have many friends in Ukraine, I understand. The Jewish community is substantial in Ukraine. What are the news that you are hearing from those communities, and what are their plans for the future?
I spoke today again. I'm speaking, I can say, like every day for hours with the Jewish community in Ukraine. We speak about 250,000 Jews who live in Ukraine. Sorry. The main need as of today is really founding. Those who could leave Odessa, Kiev, and are still in the country. I can give one concrete example. There's a group of 200 children who left Odessa, and we've been 28 hours on the road to go 1,000 kilometers far away. So this is only one example. There's children from school and kindergarten that have been taken out of Odessa because Odessa is now also a target. So the main need is really founding as of today, and of course food and every other material that can be given. But the main actually need is founding to keep themselves alive. Same time, I heard today something very interesting, that one of the reasons, let's say maybe one of the main reasons for the people not to leave the country is a legal issue. They are very much concerned if they will come back, how will be the status? So one of the reasons, because I believe in the moment everybody who could would like to leave, but they are very much concerned they will not be able to come back. And this is a legal issue with the Ukraine government that I think the parliament or the European Union should think about it and maybe discuss it with the government of Ukraine to deal with this, because especially if you're speaking about children and young people, this is a big question.
Yeah. I'm sure we will have reasons to come back to that question, and we will also come back to Ukraine at the end of the program. But Gady, Gronich, if I may stay with you for a few more minutes, because you said something very interesting at that symposium. You really raised your concern about the future of religious Jewish life in Europe. Can you elaborate what you meant? Because our viewers, of course, were not there.
I'll explain what I meant. We are today facing a major problem, the Jewish community in Europe. And the question is not religious freedom, as we have been called it by name till today. The question is practice of religious freedom. This is our main concern, because we have religious freedom in Europe, in almost every country, or in all countries in Europe. But we are facing situation that the politic is, the politic and the court are telling us how to practice this. This is the main difference. So this is our main concern, and I would like to say maybe in very short, we are very grateful and thankful for all what is done in the past, what is done today in Europe in the three issues of fighting against anti-Semitism, security question for Jewish community, and the remembrance of the Holocaust. And we really want to say to everyone, to the Parliament, to the Commission, to the government in Europe, thank you. Unfortunately, we need to do more on this. But same time, our main concern and question of staying here to live in Europe is the issue of practice of religious freedom, and we are under a problem.
Nicola Beer, you are the Vice President of the European Parliament, but you are also responsible for combating anti-Semitism, and in your portfolio is also Holocaust remembrance. When you hear the concern of Gady, Gronich, what goes through your mind, and how would you address these concerns in your capacity as Vice President?
I can totally understand the concerns the Jewish communities have on those practice of religious freedom. And it's one of the reasons why the President of the European Parliament, Roberto Metsola, pointed out the new function of a special envoy to fight against discrimination of religions, including anti-Semitism, which I have the honor to represent. So we are on equal footing with the Commission, where such a special envoy is already there. And we are also calling to the member states to install such functions, as then we have a broader network to work on it. And especially I'm grateful that the strategy Commissioner Skinas made on the table to fight anti-Semitism is also emphasizing on the fostering of Jewish life in the European member states. So it's not only by words, but really by actions to make it possible to live the religion and not to give them the image of some outdated traditions which are not important. For me, it's clear, and I'm very happy that in Germany we found a good solution on that, which is quite balanced, that circumcision or also religious slaughtering has to be possible in our member states. And I'm really hoping that after adopting the IRA definition in the Council, we will come up in the discussion with member states which are looking on that otherwise than, for example, the German solution, that we can go further in the discussion to make understandable that a Jew has to respect in his religious life some of the practice which might be seen in other parts of society as not so important, but that this is the core of religious life, which we have to respect.
Thank you very much. And Gady, again, the conference in Berlin brought together, of course, very prominent voices from the faith communities. We're talking about the Archbishop of Canterbury, the Bishop of the Protestant Church in Berlin, and the Secretary General of the World Evangelical Alliance, representing some 100 millions of believers around the world. So they all committed to standing against anti-Semitism. But is this enough? Who has the sole responsibility, would you say, to ensure that there's a future for the Jewish community in Europe? Is this the EU, the national governments, maybe some other institution?
First of all, I would like really to say again, thank you to the European Coalition for Israel, who invited me to this important meeting in Berlin and gave me the opportunity to introduce our matter, our issue. It was a very important opportunity and start for us to discuss this. But we are only in the step of trying to explain ourselves. And what I'm really missing is an action plan. Because we are talking about this for quite 3-4 years now, since the ban of kosher in Belgium 2019. And there are solutions to discuss. And sometimes I have the feeling that on the local government, they are not open to listen to us, if I want to be very honest. And I think the key of this question is here in this parliament. I really would like to argue or to ask to have a discussion about this, where we could also introduce solutions that work to our tradition, but to the country legal possibilities. But the call need to come from here, from the parliament. This is something that I think need to be as next step taken in consideration and in action, because only by that we can succeed. And maybe unfortunately, the example that I'm going to give now is an advice that is till now it didn't happen. After the decision of the High Court in Luxembourg, which confirmed the decision of the High Court in Belgium, it took only few weeks that the High Court in Greece took a decision without any application from any government. If the government in Greece would like to take a decision about kosher ban, they are open to do this. I mean, it's really like the effect of the High Court of Luxembourg. And we need to stop it. We have today difficulties in Finland in the moment. We are starting to hear about difficulties in UK, where it's maybe not today part of Europe anymore, on some way. But there are difficulties in UK. I was last week in France. There are discussions under the table. They are waiting. Those who are looking to make the difficulties are waiting for the right moment. So I think it needs to come out from here, from the parliament, forcing, speaking, calling the European governments to respect and to act, and to come with us around the table and to find ways before the problem starts.
Okay, we often speak about the relevance of the European institutions, and I think a day like today, we see very clearly the power of unity and the European Union in dealing with the situation in Ukraine. But looking at the future of Jewish life in Europe and how we can protect and make sure that there will be thriving Jewish communities also in the future, what do you think is the role of the European Parliament and perhaps the other European institutions?
I think that European Parliament can not only back the strategy of the Commission, which is really a major milestone, in my opinion, because it's not only on the question of fighting hatred in the digital world or others, but also on fostering Jewish life. And so all those questions we have on the table to make it possible to live really the traditions which are crucial for Jewish religion. And so I think that it's important that the strategy has a concrete action plan. So there are a lot of measures from fighting anti-Semitism to fostering Jewish life, and also on the education topic, which is crucial, in my opinion, to make understandable in society what is Jewish, what is Jewish religion, what is Jewish culture, and how can we protect and foster it. And so I think that European Parliament has the role to be a broader network in this, as we have members from all the member states, and as a lot of those measures now tackled by the Commission has to have the support of the member states and those governments. And I'm really hoping that we can go forward with an initiative taken by the Austrian President of Parliament there, Mr. Sobotka, to have a network of MPs from the national parliaments, MEPs here from European Parliament, together with the special envoy of the Commission, to go in such discussion as the Rabbi just mentioned, because it's important to speak frankly before these decisions in the national parliaments. We as European Union, if I can call it like this, because Parliament and Commission, we are behind the handbook of the Commission where all those questions are tackled, but we have to explain it. We have to make visible and understandable for the parliamentarians in the national parliaments why they can find a solution, as we did find in Germany, which balance out the different rights of young children and the Jewish life and the right of education of the parents, of animal and the Jewish life and the right to live their traditions. This is possible, and I will not end to discuss it so that we have no problems on the table in the member states.
Because you, Gady Gronich, you said something quite provocative. It sounded provocative when you said it in Berlin. When you said that the biggest threat today is not anti-Semitism, but it's something else. It's the freedom to practice, your religion. As I say, that may come across as rather mind-boggling. But would you like to elaborate what you meant?
Yes. Sometimes provocation is not negative. I can tell you, it's very simple to explain this. In the last report that was giving out end of 21, we learned that 30% of the Jews who live in Europe are seeking to leave Europe. And it's not only because rise of anti-Semitism, it's not only because they are scared of terror, which is of course very important part of this, but it's because they are not feel welcome. On one side, we hear wherever we are going, whoever we are meeting, you are welcome in Europe. You are part of our society. You are integrated. You are, a normal citizen. But on the other side, when we hear and experience all the laws who are giving out to make our practical Jewish life almost impossible, we ask ourselves the question, are we wanted here? Do you want us here, or you want us to take our bag and go? So our main concern, beside of the other concern that we already spoke about, anti-Semitism, security, and it's really, I would like to repeat, there is done a lot in this. There's much more to do. Unfortunately, I will pray for the day where we don't need any more a policeman in front of the synagogue. If the day will come, I will say we did it, or you did it, if this day come one day. I'm not so optimist, but let's hope and let's pray for this. But on reality, what is today affecting our possibility to live as a citizen of the country, wherever we live, to live as a respected human being, not to be discussed is the welfare of the animal more important of the human rights, which is also an aspect in there. Give us the possibility to live according to the law, but to respect our tradition, our religion that we are carrying out for 5,700 years till now, and we cannot do any changes. We would like to live according to the law, and if somebody is living not according to the law, punish him. We will support this, but don't punish us because you want to punish somebody else.
And I think one really important point is to make it visible, the Jewish life. Because I see under the rise of anti-Semitism that a lot of Jewish citizens just stay back from showing that they are Jew and how Jewish life is and what tradition they are following. And I think the knowledge of each other is so important, but you only can know something and somebody else and his traditions if you see it, if you have a chance to understand it, if maybe you are invited also to practice it for a special occasion. And so I think to explain, to educate in our schools, not only for Jewish religion, but for all religions, to show up which are the traditions, what is the law in those parts. And these for the Jewish religion, and this is important, that these are laws which fulfill with our constitutions and our values in Europe. So it's not against any of our values. This is really important. I make an example, a very practical one. There was no German Haggadah. So we here, together with some funding of the Commission and some funding from some MEPs, we printed a Haggadah in Hebrew and German so that we can give the texts for those important Jewish life dates to Germans which are Jewish or not Jewish, but which are interested in learning what is going on those important days for a Jew. And maybe we have to think more on those practical examples to make people which are of non-religion or another religion just more familiar with Jewish life, and then it will be quite normal to protect it also from their side, because the Commission, European Parliament, the governments can do a lot. But if there is not the society to fight for these freedoms, we will not win the case. And we see it in the Ukrainian case, because it's society, it's the people in the street fighting for the freedom of Ukraine. And I'm really convinced that everybody who knows it better from learning about Jewish life is fighting also for this freedom.
I would like, if I may say, to add something, because I absolutely agree with the Vice President, what she's saying. It's a lack of information and education. And I can give you one small example, very short. The Conference of European Rabbis is planning now to hold, after we already twice delayed this, unfortunately, our convention, which is taking place every second year with 500 rabbis and a lot of key people in Munich. What we are planning to do in end of May, what we are planning to do on the first day, to send 30 rabbis, young rabbis in this case, who speak German, English from all over Europe, to the Academy of the Army, to the Academy of the Bundeswehr, to the training institution of the police, and to high schools, with the motto, welcome a rabbi. Mm-hmm. Not meet a rabbi, welcome a rabbi, where the rabbi have 1 hour to say who we are, why we carry kippah and not a casquette like the French one, Why we go to the synagogue on Friday and Saturday and not like the neighbor on Sunday to the church? Why we eat kosher and we don't eat something else? And why we are a fan of X, I say no, FC Bayern Munich and not Dortmund in this case, or Hertha Berlin, whoever. We are just normal people, normal citizens. We are integrate. We are living according to the law. Just we would like that people will exactly what you said before, know who we are. We respect them, so respect us, and leave us the small thing be a little bit different.
We are shortly drawing to a close. I would have liked to ask the Vice President of what we learn from the current crisis when it comes to dealing with similar autocratic regimes, be it China in the Far East or Iran in the Near East. Maybe you can just have a minute reflection, if you may.
Yes, I try to explain it in a minute, but I would just add that I think we have also to join in such measures with journalist academic programs because I read
Absolutely.
too often false information about Jewish life or about Israel, and it's not sometimes it's not anti-Semitism, it's just lack of knowledge. And so I think it's important to hold up these channels of public information which are trusted by our citizens. So to summarize it up, I think to stay strong together for our values and freedoms, and freedom of religion and belief is one of these really crucial values we fight for now at the side of Ukrainian citizens and Ukrainian government for the sovereignty, and there to invest more also in the possibility to really defend our security of our freedoms, of our sovereignty is important, I think, for member states and European Union. And maybe we were too naive after the fall of the wall to invest enough in the capabilities we need. And so I hope really that we will strengthen the mandate of the High Representative for Foreign Affairs and that we will strengthen our capabilities by investing together in security.
Thank you, Vice President Nicola Baer. Thank you, Gady Gronich, for our conversation. This was the European Report, and we will end today on a sober note as our thoughts and prayers go to the people in Ukraine. But I'll say thank you to our panelists, and we hope to see you again next month here at the European Report.